Away from the horrors of Auschwitz, a happy scene for a group of Jewish children aboard one of the Windermere ferries. Cumbria was to be the temporary home for a group of traumatised youngsters after the liberation of the death camp in 1945. Here in Prague, most of the 300 pose for a picture before being flown to start a new life. None of the freed children knew what they were going to find when they boarded the planes. After touching down near Carlisle, they were taken in a convoy of trucks to take up residence at Calgarth. The site on the banks of Windermere previously housed workers who built flying boats during the war.
Slowly I got on my feet and, started life, a normal life.
The epic journey has been dubbed by some historians as From Auschwitz to Ambleside.
Remembering that the Holocaust is one of the defining moments of human history, in all its awfulness, the Lake District was the most appropriate of places to bring them to recover. The fresh air, the hills, the athletics, the sport, all combined to give them the best possible start in what was for most of them a new life.
I could get into the lake, I could swim, I climbed the mountains in the Lake District, and it was a different life altogether. And we had white bread, and the food was better, and I started feeling myself growing. I could get myself taller all the time.
The so-called Windermere boys have described their new Lake District home as heaven compared to Auschwitz. There was no longer need to hoard food or be frightened of the staff, something Maya Hirsch, who's now 88, found it very difficult to adjust to after the cruelty of the death camp.
If you didn't die from starvation, you would die by willful killing. In Auschwitz, for example, the assessmen were walking about always looking for opportunities. If they saw a fellow who wasn't walking properly, he was kicked. And if he fell on the mud, he was kicked more until eventually he was killed.
A sports teacher was brought in to help them regain health. It wasn't just a question of recovery, it was a question of being re-civilized. And this area, the people in the area were very gentle, they were very accommodating. There's all these circumstances which helped them to readjust to what we would describe as a normal life.
Wonderful people came and talked to us and so on. We had very little English lessons, just a few hours, and that's it. And we had to pick up words as we went along, it was difficult, and because among ourselves we spoke Polish, and so it was among the boys and the girls. There were 40 girls and 260 boys. It was a wonderful time, actually.
It's 70 years since the horrors of Auschwitz ended for Arek and his fellow prisoners. He eventually left the Lake District to build a new life, thanks to the kindness of people in the region. He has 3 children and 7 grandchildren. Arek now spends his retirement making sure that future generations never forget the Holocaust and how lucky he was to survive.
Enclosed in a giant tent, the gates to the world's most notorious death factory. As 300 of those who survived its evil gathered to remember more than 1 million who did not.
How can one erase the sight of human skeletons, just skin and bones, but still alive? How can I ever forget the smell of burning flesh, the heartbreaking and weeping of the children torn from their mother's arms by the brutal action of their torturers will ring in my ears until I am laid to rest.
These stories of loss and suffering make the most painful of hearing, but there is a determination that these stories and the lessons they carry will not be lost. Director Steven Spielberg has been collecting the stories, and today he released a factual film to constantly remind the world.
Trains full of Jewish prisoners Sometimes several thousand people a day begin arriving at Birkenau from nearly every country occupied by Nazi Germany. They have no idea what awaits them, no inkling that their fates and those of the ones they love will be decided in a matter of minutes, that this may well be the last time they set eyes on one another.
There was appreciative applause, but this was not a day for celebrity or for the heads of state present. It was for the survivors, who began early this morning bringing their wreaths and their memories to the camp's notorious Wall of Death, where many who'd escaped the gas chambers were executed. Here we met 88-year-old Solomon Birnbaum, remembering the last time he saw his 10-year-old brother.
Well, in essence, he was selected by Mengele. That night he was sent to the extermination camps, gas camps, and of course on a truck, and he threw his bread to me and yelled to me, "Listen, I don't need it anymore."
Then there was Auschwitz survivor Susan Pollock, a Hungarian who now lives in London, nervously retracing the footsteps of her family into the very gas chamber where they died.
My thoughts are of greatest sorrow imaginable and anger. Sorrow that my entire family, extended family, came here with their many children, and I've lost everyone. More than 50 members of my family were murdered.
Like many, Susan was back here for the first time in 70 years. Tonight, those years seemed to roll away as a group of survivors walked where they'd walked once before, along the railway line, through the snow, to place candles on a monument to more than 1 million men, women and children who'd made the same walk and never returned.
Soon it will fall to the next generation to carry the torch of remembrance. So it wasn't only VIPs and survivors at today's National Memorial Service. Young people came too, to listen and to learn.
The Holocaust is an unparalleled human tragedy and an act of evil unique in history. And it is for these reasons that we must always remember it.
That task of remembrance will now be made easier because of government money to improve the existing National Memorial in London and to invest heavily in education. The purpose of the new memorial and the other proposals is to ensure that as time passes, the memory of the Holocaust is forever woven into the fabric of our history. Today, at events all around the country, those who lost their lives in the Holocaust were honoured. In Hampshire, this was just one of the hundreds of services organised nationally, many of them in schools, like this one in Scotland. In Norwich, one of 7 specially designed candles was lit in a task shared by 2 generations. And it's for the next generation especially that a new Holocaust centre will be established. As the survivors themselves become frailer and fewer, an archive of their testimony will be established.
We need to have an important site, which will be a museum, a memorial and an educational resource centre, so that the lessons of the Holocaust will remain ever relevant for us.
The new Holocaust Memorial will honour a generation now passing into history and help ensure their suffering is always remembered.
For close to 70 years, Bernard Levy worked hard to forget this place. A place where at the age of just 19, he bore witness to one of the world's worst examples of man's inhumanity to man.
Well, you can't help thinking about the people who were dying in there with no help, no food, no succour, no hospital treatment. It just feels terribly sad.
He was one of the first British soldiers to arrive at Bergen-Belsen in the days after liberation.
Barbed wire everywhere, chaos, bodies, pits, and they look like skeletons. Almost invariably they look like skeletons.
When Bernard arrived at the camp, at least 50,000 men, women and children had been killed by the Nazis. 60,000 were still clinging to life.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because actually the view that we have is rather beautiful, but
Yes.
it was a scene of horror.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I wish I could have done more. At least shown more humanity. I mean, we were moving bodies, we were moving living bodies, we were moving people, disinfecting them, moving them. Did I feel tremendous compassion for them? I don't know whether I did or not. And did I feel enough compassion? And was there anything else I could have done? Maybe given them a piece of chocolate or something on their way, who knows? You know?
For every person you helped to escape out of this camp, you were there hearing.
I was a boy doing a job, and that's what I did. In a way, I'm glad I'm back. Because, if you like, it's the last time I'll be here. And I just feel that I've come to say goodbye to all that. And I hope that they'll all rest in peace.